Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining our webinar today. My name is Dave Mantell. I'm a certified financial planner with Stabler Wealth Management, and I'll be your presenter. And the topic today for our webinar is the Boeing retirement timeline. I'm excited for this one. Of all the webinars we do, this is probably the most popular one. And whether you're 3 years from retirement, 3 months from retirement, 3 weeks from retirement, hopefully not that close. This is a perfect time to tune in and sort through what that timeline is you should be thinking about in that final stretch of your time with Boeing. So I'll go ahead and share my screen here and we'll jump right into the presentation. Perfect. So for today's agenda, we're going to cover a few different points. First off, we'll go over logistically those key steps to look at ahead of retiring from Boeing. And that will be, really getting granular on the key dates to think about what you should be doing when, which tends to be a helpful guide for folks. On top of that, we'll talk about some important timing considerations, as well as key actions to take as you get closer to retirement and when to be looking at those key actions. Most of the folks that we meet with that are retiring from Boeing or recently retired, we see big missed opportunities that happen all the time. And so again, whether you're 1 year out, 2 years out, 3 years out, there's still time to be doing big needle movers that will make a big difference on your retirement success and maximizing all the benefits and opportunities available. And so today, what we want to do is make sure we get you all on that right path where you're not leaving money on the table. You have a game plan on what you should be doing and when. And really, we want you hitting retirement right and jumping into it and soaring, rather than limping in. So we'll make sure we cover how to do that. Before we get into the meat of the presentation, a couple little things about us. So at Stabler Wealth Management, we're a team of certified financial planners. So we're fiduciaries, and we specialize in working with Boeing employees and retirees to, again, help them have a successful transition and successful time in retirement. And we're really focused on personalized advice and care and finding that intersection between what's the right approach to save on taxes, get the best return for your investments, maximize your benefits, with also reaching your goals and what's important to you and your family. To learn more about us, go to our website, www.planyourboeingretirement.com. And we got some good information and details there that you can absolutely check out. And that's also a place where if you want to set up a time to meet with us, you could do so and set up that complimentary consultation. So check out our website. All right, with that, let's get started. And so as we kind of work through this, like I noted, first things first, it's helpful to look at the timeline. The first step that goes into that is selecting your retirement date. And this has changed a bit since COVID in the last 4 years or so. So the way it works now is once you determine what date you want to retire, you have a 14-day window in which you actually put in your termination request. Of course, you could let your manager know, your team know, so they could prepare accordingly. But really, you don't actually go into the system and put in your termination, your retirement request until 14 days before your retirement date. I know that feels a little odd, but what happened is during the COVID period, when there were VLOs, voluntary layoffs, it really goofed things up where you had folks putting in their retirement before those announcements happened, for example. And so since then, this has been a shift. And so this is amazingly one of the last things you're going to do with your retirement is actually put in your retirement into the system. One more important factor, when you're putting your retirement in, make sure you know you are voluntarily retiring due to retirement. That's why you're voluntarily terminating. And what that does is it makes sure you get your pro rata share of your bonus that pays out next year, the following year in the spring. And so even if you're ready to leave Boeing and you got a couple choice comments you want to leave them, or thoughts on how the company should run or who the next CEO would be, uh, don't express that in your termination, voluntary retirement request process online. So make sure to say I'm voluntarily retiring. That's a reason for termination. So you get your bonus that you worked hard and earned. So just a little nugget on that. Okay, so a lot of times this is a huge point of confusion that we see for folks is terminating and putting in your retirement from Boeing is a separate thing from commencing your pension. When you commence your pension, which means you start your pension or opt to take your lump sum, that can only occur after you've retired from Boeing. And that needs to occur on the first of the month. And so in this example, if you had retired or put a termination date for November 30th, then the earliest you could commence your pension would be December 1st, right? The following day. Um, you know, your pension is a huge asset of most folks' overall retirement plan, and a lot of the benefit for what you worked hard at Boeing to earn. And so it's something we want to make sure a lot of thought goes into, and we're not just kind of willy-nilly shooting from the hip and making a decision. A lot of the process has moved online with Fidelity, but you can start the process 90 days before your commencement. And that means getting your actual pension numbers, reviewing those, doing your lump sum analysis. And we really suggest starting the process at least 30 days prior. So you have adequate time to really review, make sure the pension numbers seem correct. There's no information missing. And so, when commencing your pension, you can do that and submit it prior to your 14-day termination from Boeing. And it's something where we do like to do, several weeks in advance, ideally a month in advance. And that way, if there's administrative error or delay, you get your pension in a timely manner. And so again, you can request your pension numbers 90 days before, start the process. And a lot of times, we'll recommend, the prior month end, let's call it 30 days before, actually commencing your pension. By the way, this is something you could technically change. So if you say, hey, I want to commence my pension for January 1st, I plan on retiring at the end of the year. Boeing says, hey, we can't let you go. We're going to offer you a sweet deal, or, do us a favor and stay on longer. You can change your pension commencement up until you submit your termination. So up until that 14-day window. Okay, so to commence your pension, two ways to do it. You could go online, go to net benefits and select collect your pension, which will put you through the process. The other way is you could call into the Boeing Financial Benefits Center, and they'll ask you, what do you want to do? There's all these voice commands, so you want to collect your pension, and that will also kick it off. My understanding is you're no longer automatically given a retirement coordinator when you retire from Boeing as part of this entire process. And so I believe, retirement's a big deal, right? This is something you don't do every day. And so things like that, it doesn't hurt to get a retirement coordinator, review your pension numbers, make sure your retirement health insurance is set up the way you expect it to. So it's something where I suggest going overboard just to make sure everything works the way you anticipate it and expect it to. And then what will happen is once you put in the request to collect your pension, you'll receive an election statement in the mail for you to review and sign that essentially basically submits that commencement request for you. Okay, so combining the retirement and the pension timeline, as you can see on this chart, in this example, let's say you're retiring at the end of a year, December 31st. You need to put in your termination within 14 days of that. So that'd be December 17th to December 31st is a window to officially retire online. And with that, that means the earliest you could commence your pension would be January 1st. And working backwards, 90 days before January 1st, October 1st, right? That's a good time to start the process, collect your pension information. And then it may be good, by December 1st, right? Kind of that month beforehand to get everything, your ducks in a row and get things submitted. And as I noted before, the commencement pension date has to be first of the month. Even if you retire December 31st, you don't have to commence your pension on January 1st. You can wait until February 1st. But the reality is you might as well commence it right away, whether it's a pension or lump sum. The only time that may not go into play is remember your lump sum is an annual thing. And so your 2024 lump sum commencement is based on last November's segment rates and calculation. If you commence in January, that's based on the 2024 November segment rates and calculation. So that is in one instance, somebody retiring at the end of November, right, may take their pension December 1st, or if they're doing a lump sum, you may opt to wait until January 1st. I'll have a little bit more on that one as well. All right, so I hope it helps a little bit seeing this timeline and kind of, marking on your calendar, those important dates. And again, everyone on here right now, maybe we could do it as a team right now. I'd start with what date do I want to retire? For example, in this case, December 31st, and then work backwards on these decision dates to make sure you have your timeline in place. So that's a good way to do it, working backwards. Okay, so now that we have the timeline sorted, like I noted, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into your time at Boeing, earning your pension, building that benefit. And so it's our duty to get the most out of your pension benefit. And that's one thing that we're here to help you do. And so the first question being, do I take the pension, the monthly annuity, the payments for life, or do I take the lump sum? And so everyone's decision is personal on this, and there's certain scenarios that will kind of dictate one way or the other. Right now, the pension is a bit more common as we've seen interest rates go up, and in turn, lump sum payments go down. But there is a lot of situations where the lump sum can still make a lot of sense to you. And so the first thing to do is compare the pros and the cons of each for your situation. For example, on the pension, if you take that monthly annuity, pros, you get lifetime payments. Boeing is shouldering the investment and longevity risk instead of you. And so what that means is you're not responsible for investing the money, making sure it lasts. Boeing will just keep cutting you checks for the rest of your life. On the flip side, on the cons, once you and your spouse pass away, there's nothing that will continue to your family, right? So based on your health, that may be a consideration on lump sum versus the pension annuity. And this is a big one. This is kind of one that's hidden a bit, is your pension benefit amount does not increase with inflation. There's no COLA, cost of living adjustment, like you see it for many other pensions. And so what that means is if you're scheduled to get $4,000 a month, in 25 years, it's still going to be $4,000 a month. And as we've seen with the cost of things and inflation ticking up lately, that will not likely have nearly the buying power it does, right, in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years as it does today. And so that is a risk that you shoulder with the annuity is, losing some buying power as your pension amount is locked. And kind of another one, we get this question all the time. You're right. You are reliant upon the solvency of Boeing and the pension program to keep making your pension payments. So far, despite a lot of the issues at Boeing, they've done a good job of keeping the pension funded, but things can always change, right? So that's always a risk. And also the laws can change. As of now, as a single payer pension, there's a lot of insurance support where even if Boeing can no longer make their payments, there's a insurance group that would kick in there. But the rules could change. And if you're relying on 30 years of payments, who knows what happens down the road. Another item, so if you do take the pension instead of a lump sum, you need to make a survivorship decision. And that's basically if you predecease your spouse, how much of your pension does your spouse continue to receive? If you don't make any changes here, the plan default is 50%. So if your pension's $4,000 a month with the 50% survivor, you pass away, your spouse will get $2,000 a month. But this is an important one. Decide before you commence your pension, because in a lot of situations, your spouse may need to rely on higher than half of your pension to keep their lifestyle if you predecease them. For example, Social Security, you and your spouse each get a Social Security benefit in most cases. If you pass away, your spouse loses a lower Social Security, but just keeps a higher of the two. And so there's already going to be an income reduction for that. So having some continuity in the pension is another consideration. The way the survivorship works is you could choose no survivor. Your spouse needs to sign off on that, of course. If you keep a 50% survivor benefit for your spouse, it reduces your pension payment by 5%, right? So you get 5% less on your monthly payments, but in turn, your spouse will get 50% if you pass before them. The 75% survivor costs another 5%, so 10% off a single life pension amount. And if you do 100% survivor, it's another 5% cost. So your monthly annuity benefit would be 15% less than the single payer amount. All these have what's called a pop-up function. And what that means is if your spouse passes before you do, your pension benefit will jump up to the single life amount. So that is a consideration as well. So by no means is the pension annuity necessarily better than the lump sum, but it's something that you need to decide because you only can make this decision once. And you want to run through the numbers, see what gets the most bang for your buck, what's best for your family, and something that's too important to just go with the default necessarily, right? Because this is one of the biggest decisions you'll make in terms of your retirement planning is getting this decision on the pension, lump sum, and survivorship rate. Okay, so let's see. So let's say you do the lump sum. Commencing your pension in December versus January can make a really big difference. And as I alluded to earlier, if you commence your pension in 2024, the lump sum calculation is based on the segment rates of November of 2023. If you commence your pension in 2025, the lump sum calculation is based on the segment rates of November of 2024. And this has had huge swings historically. As you can see in this chart, this is an example of somebody in 2020 that had a $1 million lump sum pension amount. If they waited to retire until 2024, so this year, and that means that was based on their segment rates from November of 2023. Their lump sum benefit would have been $330,000 or so, less than it was in 2020 or 2021 retirement for that matter. And this is why you saw a lot of people head for the exits and retire early in those post-COVID years when segment rates went basement level low and lump sum shot through the roof. And so we have several clients that pulled the trigger. Their lump sum pension shot up 300,000, 400,000 in some cases. And many went back in a consultant role for Boeing because that is a lot of money that you left on the table by not retiring in that window if you were within striking distance. Likewise, if you were to retire in 2025 rather than 2024, we don't know yet what the lump sum benefit will be because it's going to be based on this upcoming November segment rates, which is basically interest rates. And so we've seen interest rates start to trend down pretty significantly in the last couple months. We'll see how that continues in the months ahead. But there's a real possibility in this example, for instance, commencing your pension December 1st rather than commencing your lump sum pension January 1st might have a $50,000 difference. And that's a lot of money, for just waiting 1 month, right, to get to your benefit. And so part of the decision on top of pension versus lump sum is the timing on when to commence your pension. Because remember, you don't have to commence right away. This doesn't necessarily weigh in on your retirement decision, your retirement date so much. It's rather when you start your lump sum pension. For those of you that are taking the pension annuity, generally speaking, you should start that sucker right away as soon as you retire. You've paid in, you've commenced. If you're under the age of 65, right, there's no point of waiting. You don't get reimbursed those missed payments. So if you're going to retire December 31st, I'd highly recommend if you're taking the monthly annuity, start that right away January 1st to kick off. Commonly, it takes a month for your annuity payments to kick in. So your first annuity payment might be 30 days delayed and be a double payment, for example. But again, in most cases, you want to start it right away. I had a client one time that was 65 and retiring, and they were in a big tax year. And so they opted to wait a couple of months to start their pension. So it didn't show on the big tax year and waited till the next one. Because since they were 65, once they started it, it made up and they received those back payments. If you're under 65, you don't get the back payments, right? So you should start it right away, really, no matter what tax bracket you're in. A couple other key considerations. I have a lot of clients and folks I work with that say, "Hey, I thought my pension got maxed out, all these years ago, and Boeing's not adding or doing the pension anymore. Why does my pension numbers keep increasing?" The reason for that is twofold. One, your pension calculation is generally based on your 5-year average pay. They call it a high five, but it's basically your consecutive 5 years of the highest pay is a baseline for your pension. And so as you've been getting pay raises and your income's been going up, that's been upping that 5-year average. So your pension's gone up. The other thing is up until age 60, if you retire between 55 and 60, you're still in the sweet zone. Age 55 is a big number at Boeing. It's if you start your pension or start your benefits before 55, if it's not based on a layoff, you're leaving a lot of money on the table. And so try not to retire at age 54 in 11 months. Please promising me that. Once you're in age 55, you're in the window and you don't get docked too bad for retiring. You're eligible for your early retirement benefits if you're eligible for that. But basically, from age 55 to 60, every year there's a small penalty, a 2% early commencement penalty. Once you're 60, that small penalty goes away. Again, it's not a huge deal, but still, that's another reason why, once you're 60, you'll see your pension number tick up a little bit. Yeah, let's see. A couple other considerations. On the lump sum, as your 5-year average pay goes up, your lump sum benefit goes up a little bit. However, every year that you get older, your mortality rate, right? You're expected to live 1 year less every birthday that you have. So your lump sum actually goes down a little bit based on that. So for a lot of people, every year your lump sum does tend to decrease a little bit on the balance as a result. So 55, if you're doing a lump sum, can be a great time to retire and commence. And tends to be sort of the highest your lump sum pension will be. So there's a lot of little details here. We have a retirement checklist that we do with clients and those that we start working with. These are all things that are on there. And so I really recommend take us up on a meeting and let's walk through these for you. Because while I'm talking in general terms, there's a lot of nuances based on your situation that we want to make sure to get right and can have very sizable ramifications as I went through. So these are a couple other considerations for you. Regarding important timing considerations, retirement health insurance is a biggie. If you were last hired before 2007 from Boeing, generally speaking, you likely are eligible for early retirement health insurance from Boeing, which has a huge dollar value attached to it because once you're 65, you go on Medicare. The ages between retirement and 65 could be very tricky from a health insurance perspective. And so it's really, again, a huge asset if you're able to be eligible and receive Boeing's early retirement medical. We work with a lot of people at Boeing that retire before the age of 60. This is one of the main reasons that they're able to. Outside of Boeing, a lot of people don't retire in their 50s, late 50s, because health insurance is so darn expensive before Medicare. And so this is reason If you're every day waking up and you're 59 years old and you're like, gosh, I am so done. I don't know if I could do another day, but I'm only 59. I got to keep trudging. My brother-in-law worked till 65. My Social Security statement says my full retirement age is 67. I take a time out and take a step back. You are in the window where we should be looking at retirement. And these are reasons that partially allow you as a Boeing employee, especially if you have that early retirement medical, to be considering those things. So this is something that we could look at together. Um, Once you turn 65, you go on Medicare. If you turn 65 before your spouse does, and your spouse wants to stay on that early retirement Boeing medical, when you go on Medicare, you need to elect the Boeing Medicare plan, which is they made a change recently, so it's an Aetna Medicare Advantage plan. I know a lot of people, when they hear Medicare Advantage, they first instincts to run to the door. Um, it's a pretty solid plan. We've had a lot of clients be on it. So far, so good. It's really inexpensive. And if your spouse is not Medicare age yet, it's probably worth the risk. You want to make sure your doctors and everything are covered so they could stay on the early retirement medical. So yeah, retirement health insurance is a big one to get lined up. When you retire from Boeing, make sure your spouse is on your insurance as well, right? So that's a biggie. Use your personal days. With the change to Fidelity, it gets a little muddy in terms of what's PTO, what's vacation, what's personal day, personal sick days. But basically, when you leave Boeing, most people get only about 25 cents on the dollar for unused sick days. On your unused vacation, you get paid out fully at your full rate. And so try to use your sick days. And remember, these are not limited to personal illness. Spending time with a parent in a nursing home, going to physical therapy. Those are things that it's intended for. So it's better to utilize those while you're still working rather than only, getting 25 cents on the dollar as a payout. So that's something to note there. And then, as I alluded to earlier, really the goal is we want to hit the ground running in retirement. And so there are some great things we can be doing in that last home stretch beforehand to really maximize your benefits, get you ready, get you, in kind of shape, right? Retirement shape where you're ready to go. We want to make sure we're maximizing your retirement benefits. Maximizing, I know it says VIP match, it's 401k match now, but your 401k match from Boeing, health savings account if that applies to you. Mega Backdoor Roth is fantastic. Go to our website. We did a great webinar and piece on Mega Backdoor Roth. So that one's a fantastic one to consider. But this is something, even if you're retiring at the end of a year, it's not too late. We've worked with some new clients recently where we made some big changes in the last month to really maximize these benefits to their advantage. And so this is one of our favorite strategies, the mega backdoor Roth, like I noted. And I'm going to say pretty confidently, just about every new Boeing professional that we've worked with and sat down with, we were able to find some great opportunities here. If you're 3 years out from retirement, fantastic. We got a lot of meat on the bone. Even if you're a few months out, still some things we should be doing to really add a lot of flat tax investment flexibility down the road in these last couple months. So that's a big one. Maximizing your benefits, using all that provides financial flexibility in retirement. In line with that, these go hand in hand, is retiring is a big adjustment for folks. It's a lot more complex when you're taking money out of your savings versus putting money in. And psychologically, it's a big deal. And so we really like to do a blueprint and kind of map out a trial run of what your retirement looks like. And much of that is establishing a plan for retirement income from your investment accounts. What accounts do we take it from? How do we minimize taxes? How do we invest some money? What investments do we pull those withdrawals from? And so this is a big one. And I've seen firsthand, it provides a lot of confidence and peace of mind laying that out before you retire versus saying, hey, I'll figure it out after the fact. A couple key dates and considerations. One, the age 55 rule is a big one. Once you're 59 and a half, you could tap money from your retirement accounts with no penalty. And so even if you're working or retired, 59 and a half, it's pretty much fair game. You could access those without penalty. You pay taxes, so we want to consider that. If you retire before 59 and a half, but you retire in the year that you turn 55 or after, you can tap your 401k without penalty, even though you're not at the 59 and a half mark. And so I see this all the time where folks retire from Boeing, they're 57, 58. They say, great, I could roll my money from my 401k to my IRA. But that was a mistake and they shouldn't have done that because now they can't access their IRA without penalty, but the 401k they could have. And so this is an example where as we're coming up with an income plan, a lot of times it's leveraging your 401k penalty free in the pre 59 and a half years. After 59 and a half, you're in good shape. Other things is, if and when you do roll your 401k to an IRA and it makes sense for you, a lot of times we see this all the time. We'll look at a Boeing professional's 401k statement, and they may have 100,000, 150,000 in this after-tax character. What the after-tax is once you max out your regular 401k, 30,500 if you're over age 50, you could keep putting money in your 401k, but it goes into the after-tax. Ideally, you're converting that to Roth or rolling it to Roth IRA right away. That's the mega backdoor Roth. But I see it all the time where that doesn't happen because it's not an automatic instance. And we'll see people with these large after-tax balances. You do not want to convert that large balance to Roth inside of your 401k because all the gains will be taxable at that point. That's a big no-no. I had a client we met with recently, or a new client, and they had done this. They heard about the mega backdoor Roth. They had all this after tax. They called Fidelity. Fidelity said, yeah, we could convert that to Roth for you. And they got a huge tax bill because all the gains were taxable. What you want to do is roll that after tax to an outside Roth IRA. The contributions will go into a Roth IRA. The gains will go into a regular IRA tax deferred. And so this is something that's a big deal that you want to make sure to get right. So it's something again, we should really review your balances there and the best way to go about it. So this kind of all falls into retirement income, actions to take around retirement, and some important little notes to be thoughtful of as you're working through that retirement checklist. Okay. Yeah, so as I mentioned, do the trial run, right? Just like anything, you're only retiring once in most cases. You don't want to be worried about, hey, did I do this wrong? Am I dusting off? Do I have to dust off my resume again in the future? So do a trial run. This is what we do, work with a certified financial planner, a fiduciary, to sit with you and do this retirement trial run, go through the retirement checklist to make sure everything's in order, you're maximizing your benefits, and you're going to hit the ground running in retirement versus limping in. And that makes a huge difference towards retirement success. As we mentioned before, take us up on a free second opinion. Again, as a benefit to you for tuning into our webinar, spending the time with us, reading what we put out there. Set up a time with our team and we'll do a 1 hour complimentary financial review. We'll go through a lot of these items, things that jump out, no cost, no obligation to you. So this is something I encourage every Boeing professional to do once you're within those last 3 years of retirement. Again, that's the red zone, right? That's crunch time. So take us up on that and we'd be happy to go through this with you. The easiest way to do that is go to our website, planyourboeingretirement.com, and just hit that big yellow button in the top right that says Let's Talk. And what that will do is allow you to schedule an initial conversation with me, actually, where we'll just kind of talk about, hey, what are your goals? What are you looking for? Where can we help? And then we'll set up that consultation, the free full 1 hour consultation. So yeah, get on the website now. I really encourage you lock in there. We just have wonderful conversations with folks. And even a lot of times, even we may not be the best fit to, help down the road, but we have a lot of good feedback ideas. So yeah, hit that button there and we'd love to talk with you and see where we can help. So I hope you found this webinar helpful. We're going to keep them coming and do more of these. I'm excited. We're going to do our open enrollment webinar here in the coming weeks. That was a really popular one. I think we had 500 folks or so, 400 folks kind of tune in on that before last year. And so really looking forward to building some momentum on that. And pass this information on to your colleagues, right? We love it. We love to help people, meet new people. This is how we go about it. So set up that trial run with us, pass this along to other people that might find this beneficial. And if there's topics that you are interested in learning more about, let us know, because I'm sure your colleagues feel the same way. And we'll make sure to cover those in future sessions. So thank you so much for taking the time of joining. Looking forward to talking with many of you, and reach out with questions and set up that complimentary session. And I look forward to talking with you then. So again, yeah, thanks so much and enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.